will call this meeting in order. Please turn off your cell phones and stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just in case anyone's curious about what's up on the screen behind me, that is our Chopper Club at a competition. Let me get my notes so I'm right. It's a Donnie Smith competition in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and they took second place in the open class for the trikes, which is the first time they've ever tried a trike. And open class means that they were in competition up against anybody, including adults, and the only one that beat him out is the guy that actually put the show on. So we're pretty proud of our kids. It's grades 7 through 12, and they built that bike right there. I'm going to put the plaque and the article up by, I'll just put it out in the audience. Please don't take it home with you, because not all the kids have had a chance to see it, but this was a really incredible trip, and we really appreciate all the fundraising and everything they do. So if we could just do a round of applause for those kids that are not here. Yeah, I'll get it up on the screen here.
All right, so are we doing, we're doing the board discussion?
I would really appreciate hearing your thoughts.
Anyone want to start?
I mean, I'm glad that we got so much input from the public. I'm glad that we were able to save the string position somewhat. But again, this is only my first time on the board, but probably my third time through the whole, third or fourth, I don't even know.
Longer than that.
Through the whole budget, and it's exhausting.
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting to watch this every year. It's exhausting to watch. I mean, not that people are pitted against each other, but everybody wants to save their program. I mean, everybody comes out for what's important to them, and I understand that, but it just breaks my heart that we even have to be here. So I know I spoke with Mr. Bronchido before he left, and I know we've talked about advocacy, and I've spoken to Sandy about this. My goal is to hit the ground running in September. We can't wait until even, I think December is too late. I mean, these people need to be sick of hearing from us, and that's, I think, what it's going to take to make sure that public education is funded at the levels that it needs to be, so that our kids have what they need to be successful, to keep them interested in school. You know, sometimes it's the extras that keep the kids interested and
That's what Jill said.
motivated. I mean, and that's the reality of it, and we need to be able to provide as much as we can. So
That's why Jill's sitting here with a nice pack on her shoulder.
but I think Mr. Bronchido hit the nail on the head when it is a lot of confusion, and I think personally it's done by design to keep people constantly guessing and to kind of keep us all unorganized and not able to really rally a collective voice. So I think that's my goal as soon as we get through the May vote and I get through my school year. That's my goal.
Anyone else?
I would agree that it's done by choice to keep us off balance. When we have to even announce if we're going to go over our tax cap by
March 1.
By March 1, and we don't have the numbers from them until April, so to even know what our funding will be, we have to commit ourselves prior to that. So they're trying to keep us off balance, and they're doing a good job. I mean, initially, the numbers that came down from the state, and if you read the article in the Buffalo News, it sounds like everybody got all kinds of money. And when I tell people that our tax cap this year is below yeah, below 1%, they're like, no, you get a 2%. I'm like, no. The people I talk to don't even understand that, how it's calculated. They said, well, how did they calculate it? I said, I have no idea. I've been shown, but I still have no idea. And they're doing a good job of pitting the communities, against each other on just like Jen said, on the different programs to try and save everything. I would agree, it's very exhausting to read this stuff and then to have hopes when they finally pass a budget, and just to be, when the numbers finally come true, to find ourselves where we are.
So a question that I would have is, would the board like to entertain a motion to explore how to be a voice for public education? Whatever that means. I don't know what it means. Jen doesn't know what it means.
I mean,
But-
I think in my head, just initially, when I think about being a voice for public education, it can't be one person, one small group. It has to be a collective entity, because otherwise it winds up falling on deaf ears, for lack of a better term. I mean, I said I was kind of quiet this year because I think the powers that be got sick of getting my emails, and and I don't blame them, but they're like, Mrs. Horschel, I know we've discussed.
We know what you want.
Right. There's nothing left to say, but I felt like when other issues would arise, that they need to hear from more than one person. They need to hear from more than one member of the learning community, for lack of a better term. It can't just be board members. It can't just be teachers. It can't just be it has to be a collective unit. And I think we need to organize. It has to be organized. It can't just be a last-minute afterthought. Oh, we got this coming up, let's throw something together. It really, it'll take a lot of effort. I think it can absolutely be done. And I'm seeing it happen in other parts of the country. If you look out in the Midwest, there's a lot of, quote, reform going on in education out there to the detriment of school districts. And the communities have finally become wise to it, and are rallying. You have town leaders, you have school board members, and you have parents rallying, writing letters, protesting, getting locked out of board meetings. I mean, it's scary what's happening, but I think it can be done, and they are causing change for the better because they're organized.
Can I add on to that for a quick second?
Sure.
I think last year, most school districts really had a rallying cry around GEA. It was very clear. This year, it really was kind of half and half between GEA and foundation aid, because some districts would fare better with more in foundation aid, some districts would fare better with GEA. Now that GEA is gone, I think what we will see next year is, again, a very clear rallying cry around foundation aid. This is what we're hearing now. So if it's one voice, one issue, I think it makes it a little bit more laser focused and more effective than if it's over everything.
I agree, but at the same time, if we have the same issue with the tax cap next year as we do this year, I mean, I think the foundation aid is going to be a moot point.
Well, I think it comes down to, like, the community that we want to be. And, it can depend on the state to a certain degree, but, this has been a real eye-opening for me here for 2.5 months.
Has it been that long?
I think it has been.
Sure feels like that.
But it seems longer than that. But, you look at our tax base, and, Mike, this is going to, basically fall on, the town and where they want this town to head.
That's right.
You look at our tax base, there's 7 companies that are paying taxes?
That's right.
It's not like it's a Frontier, you can't even really say Hamburg. Lancaster,
Businesses
Clarence,
in
where
Lancaster.
you've got a new business popping up day in and day out, 45 new home track going in everywhere. Do I want that in Eden? No. And I think the community has shown, with the capital project back in December, that they want their schools. And I think that's something that we're just going to have to continue to rally the community as to what type of community you want to be. Do you want development coming in? Do you want businesses coming in? That's going to be the challenge, is where does the Eden community want to head ultimately?
I'm just going to say something, not speaking to the current town board, but previously, when I would have electronic conversations with members of the town board asking what their thoughts were about helping the school district, increasing the tax base, the response I got was basically the two are mutually exclusive from each other.
We're not seeing that now.
Right, but I'm just saying, I mean, there was a very, and I'm not using names, but that was the response that I got, and it was I felt tunnel visioned and isolated, and I feel like that's part of why we are where we are. And I also hear people say, I don't want Eden to get any bigger than what it is, but.
But if it doesn't, we've got a limited tax base.
You're not growing, you're dying?
But
Or
it's not that.
you're putting more burden on the taxpayer to cover the
Exactly.
cost
Right.
of the district, is what you're doing.
We are changing too. We're
Yes.
shrinking greatly. And people don't understand that. It's like when I went to school here, families were much larger than they are now. I mean, it was nothing to have 6 kids. Some people had 11 kids. But, now it's 2 kids. And people say, well, there are more homes in Eden. Yeah, there are more homes, but there are less children in those homes than there used to be.
And people stay in their homes
Absolutely.
forever, and that's a great thing,
Paid for.
but you're not getting any new families then.
All right.
Well, so who makes them, I'm all for it, and we'll figure out what it is after the fact.
Do you want to make some type of motion to further this?
The Eden,
concept or
the Board of Ed, what are we asking?
What is it?
Being a voice for public education, meaning I think that we're collectively not going to in a belligerent way, but speak out.
Come on. Don't close all the doors.
I'm all for it. I mean, we have an advocacy committee, that is kind of our voice, but I think we need to be a little, I'm not going to say we think, I know, we need to be more organized, it needs to be more consistent.
And I think it's true that we need to start before, if we start before like election time, these people that are running, if they hear our voices out there, we are also voting. And we have to pay really particular attention to the ones that are supporting education, and that are going to go up and fight for us.
Right. I mean, even if the motion, you're still going to be hearing more from me because this,
If you made a motion, I'll second it too.
What does the motion sound
What-
like? I think
A
that's
motion
what,
to form an exploratory committee with the express purpose of letting affected leaders know the district goals.
Wow, that's a whole lot of words.
Second
Word for word.
Second what he said.
I'll say, yeah, I agree. I second what he said.
Barb's got it right.
Barb's got it.
yeah, can you repeat that downtown?
Yeah.
So what if it had pieces of this one is to make a motion that the Eden Board of Education work to create an advocacy committee made up of a diverse stakeholders to what? What did you
Boy,
say?
you're actually longer than I am, and that's never the case.
I just said it slowly. To
Express
what?
purpose to creating an advocacy committee to work with our elected officials.
I like
and
that.
finances.
Let's do it.
Perfect.
Did you get that, Barb? Can you repeat it back? Can you read it back?
Necessarily working with public officials.
Yeah, I agree with
It's
Pat.
more about getting the public, the community, to let them know what's going on.
So let's
So
add
that
to it.
they
What
do
would you add?
something. Yeah, what would
How
you
would you
say?
word it?
Oh my gosh.
Comes into the social media policy at the end of the day.
It's coming.
Public
Yeah, I mean, I
officials
agree
and
with
the
Patty,
community
it's
as a
not
whole.
just the political, it's.
It absolutely is.
community,
Community
it's
members being invested in
Business.
what is happening.
Government.
So it's
Right.
the
Private
communication
sector.
out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's getting the news out, and then
Getting the facts out.
getting the facts out there, and then getting them to move, do something, action. Let's work on this. Maybe we can
Yeah.
come back with something for the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else on the bat? Anything that disturbed you? Anything you want us to look at?
I would add something, in the Buffalo News, virtually every day or every other day, there's an article about a school board. I like to read the comments, there's between 50 and 150 comments, and most of them talk about the darn school district with their blank check and how they don't care about taxpayers or whatever. And what I found through my first process, actually being hands-on, is a very thorough process, keeping all stakeholders in mind, taxpayers, employees, and obviously students. And I would applaud the group as a whole because, and certainly the community for their input, because I get emails and we get letters and we read them all and we weigh that very heavily. And that's the way we come to a conclusion, and that's the way the community and the school district works together by coming to a consensus. And I would say, despite virtually every comment in the Buffalo News, it is a very thorough and as fair as it can be process given the circumstances.
Agreed.
Okay.
I got nothing more.
Tom said he can't talk
He's speechless?
anymore. Speechless.
So we're moving on to, public comments.
Public comment? Yep.
This is the, I don't have the little spiel up there. It's the
That's all right.
opportunity.
Public
Try.
comments, anybody
Try,
wants to
Jen.
talk, you got 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
And just please state your name and your affiliation, maybe.
So it's an opportunity for public comment. You have 2 minutes. Just state your name, and you have 2 minutes to speak.
Going once? Going twice?
We have one.
Oh, there we go.
Sue's going to get the mic set for you, Kathy. So while Sue's doing that for Mrs. Jeffers, I would just like to tag on to what you might. I can give you. We
Or
can
give
just
her
give
one
you
of the-
what you can use
She can
Jill's
the one on the
mic.
end.
Yeah, use that one right
That worked great. There you go.
Testing.
Yeah,
Oh, it does work.
there you are.
My name is Kathy Jeffers. I'm music department chair and teacher at GLP. And I would just like to thank the BAT team for the work that they've done. I know it's very difficult. I know we advocated for something that we saw that was a potential problem, and I appreciate and I thank you for looking at that again and finding another way to do it, and that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Nicole Waganowski. I would also just like to say thank you for all the time that you've put into the budget and the changes that you made to try to save positions. And I also want to thank you for not putting the state tests in front of the students that refused it this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take about 5 more thank yous if anybody's out there. It's been a really long week. Going once.
Well,
Mrs. Farrell, you never disappoint me.
Hi, my name is Mrs. Farrell. I am a teacher at Eaton Junior Senior High School. I teach high school mathematics. And I was thinking about what Mrs. Horschel said. And as we move forward into the fall, I have a suggestion on how we can maybe attack the communication to our elected officials.
You want to chair it.
No.
thank you.
It's going once. I hear emotion on that.
That'd be the quickest motion.
A suggestion is when we, in the fall, have several early meetings like open house, the votes,
Concerts.
paying your taxes, if we can have maybe a set of iPads or laptops set up at those sites to just have those links available for people to
That's a very good
access.
It's a great idea.
Come up with
Or handouts.
quick links, handouts for people to contact those elected officials at that point in time when we do have a large number of people that we could get those
Absolutely.
communications out. Or if, let's say, someone's coming up and picking up their child for an early dismissal, get a laptop there and get those quick communications out to those elected officials. The more that we can keep clicking and reminding them that, we are going to be out there and we are going to be a voice. That's just my suggestion.
No, it's a great idea.
It is a great idea.
Thank you.
Great idea.
Anybody else? Going once?
I'll say something real quick. It's the first time I've been here. Hopefully it won't be the last. My name's Jerry Stires. I live in Eden. Unfortunately, starting next year, I won't have any kids in Eden School District. They're going to go somewhere else. But I moved to Eden for a reason, because you guys had the arts, and I had heard about the music cuts too. I'm proud of what you did with that. I'm happy with that. I got to meet Mrs. Anselo and speak with her.
So he knows what that voice at 5 in the morning sounds like, he said,
Yes.
when I close school.
Put a face with that voice, it's great. So I'll applaud you too, and also say I'm proud of you for what you did. We moved here for a reason. I came here from Seattle, Washington, which, if you guys don't know, is the most educated city in the United States when it comes to college degrees. We looked at Williamsville, we looked at East Aurora, we looked at Orchard Park, places like that when we came here. We came to Eden for a reason. I'm proud of the changes you made. I came here with a big rant prepared about sports and everything else, and I love sports. I played sports all through my life when I was a little kid, but I just want to say our kids should have the right to be the next Hillary Hahn, Itzhak Perlman, Anna Bolbrook, somebody like that, as much as they should have the right to be the next Cam Newton, Tom Brady, that type deal. And I know Eden isn't a big football town because we don't have a lot of kids playing. I know we took a year off. I don't know how we're going to come back next year. I hope we do. But I'm proud of you as well. Thank you for the effort you put in. Thank you for the consideration you've made for those kids that find that important. Like my daughter, who was on the front page of the Buffalo Times today with a stock photo that they took last year for taking the state test. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, your turn.
Oh, hold on.
My name is Matt Gould. I have 3 kids in the district. I've recently got involved helping the newly formed Music and Arts Boosters Club.
We appreciate all the work you did with that, too. It's great.
I'm a wee little person and a good group of people. So I just want to say thank you for the effort to bring that position back. And to echo what he just said, the importance of the arts. I'm a little biased. My wife's a music teacher in the Hamburg district. I've watched her, now this is her 2nd year in Hamburg, now full-time. She came into a part-time position, what is essentially now being created for Mr. Bowe's position in elementary school. I know it's not going to be easy to recruit a person to a part-time position in an elementary music position, but I also know there's not a lot of music positions available. So hopefully we find the right person for that. Hopefully we are a good advocacy group from the Music and Arts Boosters to be able to continue to encourage kids to be involved, regardless of budgets. But also I want to say as a whole thank you to this group for considering that and considering the whole of a child's education and music being an important part of that. So
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody?
That's the nicest group of people ever.
You have your leg back.
My name is Connie Gagnon, and I really just wanted to say thank you for considering putting the music back in. And we all know what hard job you guys do. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Colleen.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else?
No.
Okay, moving on. New business, item A, appoint election inspector. Recommended motion that upon the recommendation of the superintendent, Virginia Gunther, be approved as an election inspector at the rate of $13.40 per hour for the annual budget vote on May 17th, 2016. Note, oh, I don't have to read the note, perfect.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carried.
Approve 2016 capital outlay project. Recommended motion that upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the 2016 capital outlay project as presented by Superintendent of Buildings and Grounds, David Martin, on March 16th, 2016, be approved.
Second.
Discussion?
This was the presentation that Dave made in last year's budget process. This is the masonry work at the GLP. Again, we spent $1,000, we get just a little less than 80% back on. And the bid was at $69,263 at this point. And it's Morris Masonry, in case anyone wondered.
Starting when?
As soon as possible. It needs to be done by June 30th, so right away.
Hopefully it warms up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carried.
Item C, approve 2015 capital outlay project contract, that upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the 2015 capital outlay project contract with Morris Masonry Restoration LLC in the amount of $69,263 be approved.
Second.
Discussion?
I need to reverse my comments. That, what I just told you was for this one. The 2016 is the one Dave just mentioned that he presented, which is in the budget. The board actually does approve that as well, and that was the masonry work for the coming year at the junior, senior high school, some of the doors, as well as the pool area.
This one, the 2015, this is clarified.
16, 17 for the coming year. So the board actually approves what Dave actually presented.
Okay.
It's in the budget.
But just for clarification, if you just take a look at B and C,
That,
the 2016 capital outlay project is specific to what?
next year.
And it's doing what?
Masonry at junior, senior high school,
Okay.
the pool, and tiles.
And C, the 2015 capital outlay project is specific to
GLP masonry.
masonry starting when?
That's right away.
That's right away. That's one that has to warm up for?
Yeah.
Okay. We got a lot of work going on here. Did you get what you needed?
All
Motions?
All
Barb,
in
did you get a
favor?
motion?
Aye. Opposed, abstention, motion carried.
Item D, adopt the 2016-2017 budget. Recommended motion that the 2016-2017 budget in the amount of $27,327,785, representing a 1.24% increase, am I saying that correctly?
You are.
Be adopted as presented.
Second.
Discussion. I would like to amend that motion then. If we could, I would like to increase the reserves, using the reserves to an even million, and then reduce the cuts in the high school, social studies, math, English, and also reduce the cut to athletics by about $3,000.
So you would like to increase the reserve use $42,000.
$41,446.22.
Reduce cuts to athletics by 3,000 or to 3,000?
The cut exactly would be about $2,739.22.
Say it again, 2,000.
$739.22.
And what were the positions?
The cuts to social studies, math, and English in high school.
Social studies, math, and English?
Correct.
Are to stay. The arts will go. Correct?
Correct. Just the three.
I'll second that.
Discussion?
Yes, I mean, I know we're looking for cuts and to use reserves as you're spending down your savings account. But my understanding, these cuts were because low enrollment in classes, that we don't have enough students taking these classes, so putting this stuff back in, what does that accomplish?
Well, my concern is, why would these proposals be made this week and not a month ago when we had, the schedule has already been made for next year? Now Jeff has to go back to the schedule and say, okay, we're reducing social studies by 0.34, math by 0.34, and English by 0.17. I don't understand what the difference was a month ago to now.
No, that's a great question. I'm really glad that you brought that up, Mr. Burns. So basically, the reason why it didn't come in before is because we really weren't forced to without that state aid loss of the close to 50,000 this past Friday. But also in taking a look at that, what we're able to say is that for the math, where these teachers are sitting in the learning lab, that the statistics in those classes don't justify having a math teacher in there every single period. We love the learning lab. I'm not suggesting that we don't. But in some cases, there are no students, and in some cases, there are one or two. So it did cause us to go back and take a look more deeply at some things that we might not have had we not really been forced to. In the social studies, what this will create is class sizes that are a little bit bigger than what they would have been without the social studies teacher there for those two sections. When I talk about a little bit better, again, we're just talking about probably 25 to 27 as opposed to 21 to 23, and we do have classes of that size at a lower grade. And in the English, this would be a change to the way we roll out our freshman academy, should that be something that we choose to move forward on, but I can't tell you
Change
how
it
it
in
would
what
look.
way?
I don't know. That I don't know.
When you say social studies, what class? Are you talking global?
No, not necessarily, because Robert Pierce was at the elementary school last year, so he would be coming back to teach Old A and not have the elementary in his schedule. And then we do have that one elective, which is the history of Eden, that is not running this year because only a few students signed up for it. So it's really just a change in a half a year section where kids will roll into something.
Well, I know that global is a very tricky class for a lot of students that sometimes holds them up from graduation because of the regions.
Sure.
So
that's your Apex. That's what Apex is for,
Right, no,
too.
I understand that.
And we also have a global recovery course, so we do have
All right.
that, too. This is not change. Whether we have these people or we don't, we will have the same programs. I can't say what it would look like different one way or the other. That just isn't a loss in program without them, and it's not a gain in program with them.
it's just a gain in class sizes.
It could be a small gain in social studies because of the Robert Pierce coming back and the elective not coming, which we didn't have those numbers last time. And that's what Mike is asking, what's different? We didn't have our scheduling numbers in the last time. And in the math, that the Learning Lab, which doesn't have students in it every single period, or just 1 to 2, may not be open those periods, or someone else may sit there. Mostly it's filled with math right now.
All right.
And the English?
That's mostly Freshman Academy, but I don't know that they really have the scheduling down clearly as what the Freshman Academy schedule could look like for next year.
And has Marissa said anything what she's going to do with $10,000?
No, she's been in Albany at conference for the last 3 days.
You know, my concern is that, you know, with $1 million coming out of reserves, we're in $1 million in a hole next year. It's like Tom said with the mortgage, you're going to pay $3,000 a month this year, you can pay $3,000 a month next year, and we're already $1 million in a hole starting off next year without any increases to anything. So I know it's only $40,000 or whatever it is.
I mean,
but-
I agree with what you're saying also, but I also, at the same point, my concern is today also is that we're not giving the public ample amount of time to understand that these cuts are here now. They knew about the music cuts, they don't know about this. In fact, some of these teachers don't even know that they're on here. And,
Is this eliminating positions?
no,
Or just
but
time?
it's reducing.
It's reducing FTEs, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Well, Mike, you say that we'd be $1 million in the hole, but we are going to put some money back into the reserves like we do every year.
We do.
That's if we get money in, yes. So
So-
you're assuming that every year we're going to come in with a surplus?
No, we're not going to break even by any means. We understand that we're slowly eroding our reserves. But it's not going to be a full $1 million that's going to be gone. And we don't know exactly how much it is going to be back in. We just talked about that on the break, that how much we put back in the year before when we took out. And it was almost a 50%.
We put in a little over $1 million last year. Most of that went to the
Capital improvement.
directly, but it was over $1 million.
Right, but that spreads out to reserves we can't use. When we would just targeted the reserve we can use to balance the budget, we almost put half back what we took out.
About there.
Yeah, so not saying that we're gonna
Little
put 500,000 back in, but we're not.
Actually less. We put about 200,000, a little over, about 300,000 into those reserves. Most of them went to capital.
Right, right, because we wanted to fund our
Which is
capital.
about half, because we used about 600,000 last year.
Right, that's what I was saying.
Yep.
The balance, we used about 600 and we added 300 back into that same reserve. So we put about 50% back in of what we used last year. We have no idea this year because
We're not done.
we're not done.
But in the budget for 16, 17, if 3%'s there, that's 810,000.
Yes.
So basically, if you look at it, we're using 190 coming out of the reserve account, ultimately. It's
You mean
based
to
on a
get to the
million.
4%?
At 3%. If we're conservatively put 3% in on a $27 million budget, it's 810,000.
Which is already there. I mean, it's there now, so.
Right.
But that's split up between all the reserves, right?
No, that 3%, which again, the OGS recommends we be at 4%. What that means is that 4% is on general savings. So whereas all the other reserves are for a specific purpose, whether it's an employment bill or whether it's for a capital project, this is your general savings account that if a bill comes in, it's not earmarked for anything, so you can actually pay the bill. And they're recommending 4%, which is 4% of the $27 million. Last year, we weren't able to put enough back in to get us back up to 4%. We got to a little over 3%. So you go much below 4%, the OGS says your
What's
fiscal
OGS?
stress, Office of General Services. And, well, OSC too, Office of State Controller, they take a look at them and say, you're in fiscal stress if you don't have enough savings. You get much over 4%, they come in and say, well, now you've saved too much. So they're saying about 4% is the right area for your amount of extra bills. So we're a little bit lower than where we should be now.
So if we fall below 3, they start looking at us.
Well, they could start looking at us at any point. They're going to look at us. I mean, eventually everyone gets looked at. If we fall below 3, we're probably getting into a dangerous territory of not having liquid money if we need it for a problem. That's a fair way to put it.
Anyone else? All right, so is part of the amended motions now on? All right, so all in favor? Aye.
Can you repeat the amended motion now? Can somebody just repeat the amended motion?
I can actually do the dollar amounts because you need the dollar amounts, right?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, because we're adding 40, I didn't even hear this.
Yep. So Barb, what was the initial amount? 27 what?
Don't use my glasses, $27.39 and 22 cents.
20, say that again?
$2,739.22.
Wait, what?
No.
27,327.
You're talking the whole
budget,
I'm sorry, I'm
27,
talking the cuts.
327,
Yeah, 785.
785, plus 41,446.22, which would be a new budget amount of $27,369,231.20. And no, I don't have the associated percent increase without doing some math on that.
Maybe 1.25.
And what's going back in? On this?
Social studies, math, English, and then a little less than 3,000.
Why aren't we looking at art, too?
Yeah. We already had art on the table, and there was almost no kids in those classes. There were some classes with, what, 1 or 2 for next year that were interested.
So you're just taking how much off from sports? So it's still going to be about a $7,000 cut?
Correct.
Here's a dollar amount of which he's proposing to restore. $12,810 from social, $15,674 for math, $10,223 from English, and the balance, $2,739.22 for athletics. Correct, Mike, or no?
Correct.
Okay. Which totals $41,446.22.
What's
Add
the,
back.
okay, what's the cut now in athletics?
10,000 minus $2,739.
So the question on the table from Mike is the .17 art is for one elective where there were 2 students who were interested in it. The .17, that was for art.
I think that we could still keep the 10,000 in sports.
I just feel bad not knowing exactly where she's going to pull that from.
Correct. And she is, we haven't even talked to her.
Why don't we leave it up to the
Marissa knows about-
administration to
Marissa
give
knows
them back
about
the
it.
Oh, she does.
$40,000?
Okay.
No, I
and let
know
the
that,
administration
but
decide
I don't know
where's
what
the
that
best.
10,000 is going to be.
Well, why don't we just give the administration the 40,000, let them best decide where that should be spent across these 3 or 4 areas, instead of line item amount.
I like that idea, more, as things shuffle out in regards to, the social studies, math, and English, along with the athletics. I mean, if math can be reduced by 0.17, let's reduce it.
We have done that before, Mr. Sutton. A couple of years ago, we had one less Spanish class needed at the junior, senior high school, and after the budget process, there was a reduction in Spanish, because the schedule is not completely done. There's no doubt that that's the case. And there's always the opportunity for us to get enrollments that we're not prepared for. The board has been pretty clear about what it wants its class guidelines to look like at the primary school, as well as the 3-5. Right now, our numbers at the junior high are running in the mid-20s, which is where we would expect them to be. Our numbers at the high school are unbalanced because that's the way a high school schedule looks, but right now they tend to be a bit smaller than some of the lower grades. So we have done that before.
I would agree with Don and say that there's no reason to run a class just because it's in the budget. If there's no one attending that class, let's give the administrators some latitude in shifting those funds where they should be best utilized.
I agree with you, but weren't we already, the schedule's already been made for these teachers, correct?
No, we have a first draft.
That's what Jeff told me.
Well, we have a first draft of a schedule that's out on a first glance, but the way that the scheduling process works is it's something that a principal will live and breathe between now and the middle of July to try to get as many kids into whatever courses they want. What Jeff is explaining to you is that he has a first draft run to put courses in certain places. This is a cranky schedule because Jeff shares teachers with the elementary school, and he shares teachers, and elementary teachers are shared with GLP's teachers, and so there's constraints all over the place. So where they run and what percentage of success they have, he's on first draft. So he may say he has a schedule, but I would suggest to you that he's not even close to 95% of kids getting into what they want to take. He's probably in the mid-60s, and I'm guessing. I shouldn't even say that on a mic, but if he is, I'm going to hire him full-time as a scheduler, because that's really good.
You run into conflicts, right? Where
Oh, my gosh.
classes can't run,
No.
because,
Right.
yeah.
What, if by lack of a better term, putting these positions, these FTEs back in, what kinds of class sizes then are we looking at, roughly?
These are high school classes?
Right, like the social
It could
studies.
be anywhere from, on these core courses, I think I'd have to get back to you on that, but I would tell you right now that most of our classes at the math, the English, and the social studies, can I put you on the spot, Paula?
I mean, at the grade level, I want to know that answer.
All right, could you say that they run anywhere from 16 to 23, 24?
The upper level, like algebra 2 and 3, it's up there around 24 to 26. My concern is with the foundation course of algebra, potentially being gone.
But that wasn't due to this, though.
No, I'm saying, when you're talking about a reduction of math, that's because you're eliminating the course, the foundations of algebra.
But that course wasn't being eliminated for budget.
But it's not going to be put in the schedule, which means a teacher wouldn't be teaching that course. So the foundation stretches out the preparation for taking the algebra exam.
So what?
My algebra course, my size of my algebra class is around 20, 22. Geometry is right around 22, 23.
Thanks. Okay, that's good, thank you. So in math, that teacher that we're cutting at a .34 is not currently teaching those periods anyways. That is a learning lab that's opened. And looking at the data for it, I can run during lunchtime anywhere from 6 to 20 kids in that learning lab. In some other periods during the day, I get no one or I get 1 or 2. So this is not a loss in the class. What Mrs. Farrell is talking about is it was a decision to drop foundations. Right.
But on the same token, during the lunches, when there's an because of a large number of people.
Mhm.
The 2 people that you have there is not enough to handle the influx of crowd who do not have a lunch.
Right.
And who need to, and don't have a study hall.
So there might be okay, and that's a scheduling issue.
Yes.
Right. This is not a loss in program. I think that's what you're asking.
Right.
And in terms of class size in math, if in fact Mr. Cervoni chooses to keep the Learning Lab open, as he did this year with math teachers in there, it won't change the size of the math classes. If in fact he chose to take a teacher and put him back into the math classes, then it could alter on an unbalanced high school schedule to class sizes of anywhere from 16 to 21. I mean, it's really hard to answer that.
Why wasn't the foundations, what was that class, foundations of algebra?
Foundations of algebra. It was earmarked for students who
It was an administrative decision not to run it.
not being successful in algebra
Okay.
4 based upon how they perform in 7th and 8th grade. They need to be slowed down to see the curriculum
Gotcha.
a little bit slower, strengthen their algebra skills in preparation for the new Common Core learning standards.
Okay.
And
So that class can run regardless of this .34. That's an administrative decision. It's not based on this.
Okay.
The social studies will have a minimal impact because Mr. Pierce was at the elementary school and the elective's not running.
So Barb, you're going to have to,
Well, you guys sort of took a vote, but then went right into discussion, so I don't know if you want to revote, or, because I'm going to have to get a head count on that last vote.
okay, so can you reread that, Jen?
The dollar amount?
Yeah.
I got the dollar amount for it. So the new dollar amount is $27,369,231.22, which represents a 1.39% increase over the previous year.
What was the percent?
1.39.
And can you read the 27 what?
27,369,231.22.
Are we going with the idea that we're going to let the administrators figure out what to do with this money, or are we definitely?
You as a board adopt a percentage in the overall amount. That's what your motion entertains.
Okay.
If you as a board choose to become more involved in what the pieces look like, then you can do that too. Or if you don't, you don't.
All right, so then who seconded that?
So,
What was it?
If it was your motion to increase,
Correct.
then I second.
She just reread it. Why don't we just,
No, okay.
she just reread it with the proper numbers, let someone second it, and then we'll vote on it.
I'll second.
All right. We don't need another discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention?
so no one's
Motion
opposing?
carried.
So I just need some clarity. This is the 1.39%. This is the 27 million. Is this to allow the administrative staff with my recommendation to figure out what it looks like? Or is this putting social studies, math, and English back on?
And athletics.
And athletics?
With parts of athletics.
I'm not sure which one it is, so that's
I-
why I'm just asking.
I just hate to see a class sit empty or with one or two kids. That's my only concern. On the flip side, I don't want to see classes in the high 20s either, so.
You don't have that.
In my opinion, what we gave was some latitude with that roughly $40,000, so that as the schedule becomes more clear, there's some ability to adjust with that portion.
So could I just ask if that's what everybody thinks they voted on? Because I'm not clear, and I can't do my job for you if I'm not clear.
That's what I voted on.
That's what I voted on.
But that gives, I mean, with that, would let the administrators do it, but then the teachers are like, well, they're up in this limbo area of, well, okay. so
Well, we're working
math and
under
English are-
what's being
are
cut
up.
right here, not, anything.
No, I mean, this is what we're working on.
Anything other than what's on this page of cuts, I wouldn't think this is what's fair game to me for that 40,000, nothing else.
Correct.
But
So-
but by the same token, if instead of .34, we still cut that .17 because we just don't need it, then that's the latitude that the administration would have.
So am I hearing you say it could be this or less, but not more?
Right.
Yes.
And it has to
These
be like that.
categories, including sports,
Well, what, I see the dilemma you're in, but, I mean, what happens when the schedule comes back and, okay, now English is .28, social
We don't-
studies is .76.
We only use a .17 and a .34,
I'm just
but I hear you.
using as
Yeah.
examples that, I mean,
I just want to do my job for you, and
I
I'm
want
not
to
quite
say
sure
it
what
could be
is.
less or more, than, but still within the 40K.
As of a week ago, this wasn't even on here. This was in the budget. So now that it's not because we didn't receive 49,000 from the foundation aid, now it's the discussion point. Before, we were comfortable with having these positions. Now, because they're up,
So
we're
what
not.
I would have shared with you is the same thing that happened 2 years ago in Spanish, is if in fact the classes came out differently a month from now, I would have brought it to you as a reduction. It would not have been a part of the budget. So you would have just approved a reduction. You did that with one of our teachers in Spanish 2 years ago. That's the difference.
So could we still be sitting here, so we've put this 41,000, whatever, when the schedule comes out, we still could be looking at a potential reduction then, is what you're saying?
Say it again a different way.
Say it again a different
So
way.
now that this budget's been approved for next year, come next year, we figure out we don't really need a piece of social studies. We would then do it as a reduction, not through the budget.
I would bring it to you as a reduction too. If I had, well, let me come back to the Spanish, because it's exactly what we've done, and it's equivalent to math and English or social studies. If when the schedule lays itself out at the junior, senior high school level, and we find that we truly don't need a section, then I come back as a recommendation to reduce a FTE by 1 period a day is a .17. It was very clean in Spanish because those class sizes were of such that if I had kept that FTE in Spanish, the class sizes would have dropped to about 14. Well, that's difficult to stomach at the elementary level when they have class sizes of 24, 25, and 26. So I bring it to you as a .17 reduction. Whether you do anything with it is your call as a board, because you approve hires and reductions. This was being brought to you as a budget item, based on what we looked at since Friday.
So now we have a budget in place.
Correct.
You do, I'm just not sure what I'm
And every
doing.
time that we need to make an adjustment, you have to bring it, a recommendation to us. Is that what you're asking?
Whenever you hire or reduce a position, I have to bring it to you. There's
So-
no change in this budget, if you approve this budget. It's just what you want me to do with it that I'm questioning. Right?
But any changes, you would have to bring forward to us already.
Right. So
I
I
don't
don't,
understand the question.
I don't know if I'm bringing forward to you what Mike suggested was the athletics, the social studies, the math, or the English, or if I'm waiting to see what shuffles out on the social studies, the math, and the English, and whatever Marissa can do with the athletics. I just want to make sure I bring to you what you're asking me.
Would you have brought this to us if it was not even a discussion, if we would have approved the budget last week before we even,
I wouldn't have brought the athletics to you, no. I may have done something with the math, and the end result with the social studies, not sure. In the freshman academy, they're just working on it. Probably, I'm not sure, because I don't know enough about that one.
so I guess we're just.
So you can adopt the budget. I just need to know what you're asking me to do.
We did, we adopted a
You
budget.
did, okay, okay, all right. Maybe if my brain doesn't hurt so much tomorrow, I can wrap it around this one, okay.
So now, are we done with item D? Okay, so policy, item 4, policy committee meeting.
So the policy committee meeting is a subcommittee of the board. It's not part of the actual board. We're going to be talking about 2 new policies that bring to the board. So honestly, it's not an item of the board, so you could move for an adjournment. I would just ask if you're still planning to have an April 13th meeting, because that was tentative on the schedule.
I don't believe we need to.
If,
Well, that's on the 19th.
so we don't need a 13th.
So
So do you need a motion to not hold that meeting?
Can we just agree on when the next meeting is then? So the 13th was a tentative. You can choose not to do that because it was there for you to adopt the budget. But there is one on Tuesday, the 19th.
Tuesday, the 19th. Where are we on Tuesday?
No BAT meeting, so regular meeting at 7.
Okay.
And it has to be that day.
So we have to have the 19th?
Anybody know they can't be here, Paul?
Yeah, because that's a vote.
You have class or no?
No, I won't have.
You're okay?
Yeah.
Or you won't be here?
As far as I know, I don't have class on the 19th.
Okay.
This is regular 7 o'clock, regular?
7 o'clock.
Tuesday, the 19th.
It shouldn't be a extensive one, right?
I didn't think this one.
Okay, fair enough.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
So no 13th.
Nope.
Then are we looking for a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Wait. I just wanted to say that there are some kids here and some teachers here who were at Kleinhans for the chamber ensembles. Can you just stand up if you were there? Because I know you were there. Look at, see. It was really awesome. I'm sorry that it's the last thing on my agenda. All right. You can adjourn. It was great.
All right.
And I thoroughly enjoyed the hula hooping at the string concert.
Yes, absolutely. It was really good. Yeah. Okay. Adjourned?
Adjourned. All in favor? Aye, aye.
All right.